Okay, so now we're getting into some of the other questions, like vertex, max, min, axis of symmetry. So what is a vertex? The vertex is going to be the very highest or very lowest, and it also has an equation. So we're going to type this into the calculator. So we're going to go to graphs, and we're going to type in, not the y equals, but 3x squared plus 3x minus 2. Hit enter. All right, so now we are going to hit menu 5.1, and we want to take this tracer. So remember, just because you hit menu 5.1, it doesn't magically pop up an answer. Let me move this out of the way again. So this is not an answer. I need this tracer to go to either the very lowest or very highest. And in this case, it's the very lowest point. So we're going to go, and a yellow box will appear. Now, I know it says minimum, but this is also the vertex. And the vertex is when we have both the x and the y. So looking at these answers, these are decimals and these are fractions, but I have something that kind of is an advantage, and that is the negatives. Both of these are negative. Well, look, this one's not negative. It can't be A. Neither of these are negative. So it's probably going to be B, or it's not here. Now, just to speed things up, yes, this is definitely negative 0.5, okay? And so I'm not going to type that in, but we can type in the 11 over 4. So let's go to regular calculator. So this is another way to get to regular calculator right there. So I'm going to go Control, Divide, and type in minus 11 over 4. Hit Control, Enter, and I get a negative 2.75. Is that what we had there? Yep. So this was my answer, B. All right. Oh, no, wrong thing. Okay. All right, so once again, they want the vertex, but this time I got a graph. And so all we have to do is to find the x and the y. Now, the key to this is do the x first. Don't do both of these. I have a lot of kids that will find the x 3, the y is 4. Well, the last thing on their mind is 4. And I know you don't see it today, but a lot of times one of your options will be the reverse of the answer. And so if you go 3 and then 4 and your mind's on the 4, then you would tend to choose this. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we get the x-coordinate. The x-coordinate would be 3. And then come and find that 3 and go, okay, well, the only one that has the 3 where the x is at is going to be G. And it just keeps you from accidentally choosing something like this right here. Okay. In the end, it's not that it's difficult, but it can be tricky, especially if you don't go to the x first. Okay, or if you try to do both of them at the same time. All right. Next one is a max or a min. We don't know which one it is till we see it. And it's an equation, so we got to go type this in. So we're going to go to graphs. We are typing in minus 2x squared minus 8x minus 1. Hit enter. And then we're going to go, and in this case, would this be a maximum or a minimum? Well, the way this is facing, it looks like there's going to be a very top. It doesn't look like there's going to be a bottom. These lines go on forever. So if it's a very top, then it's a maximum. And so we would hit menu 5.1 and then take this up to the very top. Now remember, a maximum is the y only. Okay, so that's the key to remember this. When you're measuring height, you always measure to the side. So like if I go to a wall and I want to measure how tall I am, I put my hand on the top of my head and I go over to the wall and then I can measure how tall I am. And so you always go this way when you're measuring, to the y, which would be 7. So this would be a maximum of 7. All right. So next one is a min or a max, but we got a graph this time. And so it's minimum. And so here's my minimum, but we only want the y. We always go to the side to measure how tall or how short something is. In this case, how short. And it goes to -2. So your answer would be -2. Okay, really easy questions right there. Okay, axis of symmetry. So with axis of symmetry. Okay, so first off, axis of symmetry right there, and a graph. I highly recommend, remember symmetry is when something's split in half. So I highly recommend that you split this in half. And if you'll do that, it touches which axis? Well, it crosses the x-axis. So it has to be x equals, so you know it's not these two. And then at what number? 1. And so which of these has x equals 1? The answer would be C. Very easy question, but you have to know that it goes through this point right here. So remember, vertex, min, max, axis symmetry all deal with this point. But axis of symmetry is special because of that symmetry. It splits this in half, and if you draw that line, it will touch the axis and the number and give you the answer. All right, and another axis of symmetry question, but this time it's axis of symmetry with an equation. Okay, so axis of symmetry with an equation. So we got to go type this in. These are a little bit tougher because you don't get to draw that line. And so we're going to type in 2x squared minus 8x plus 6, and then we'll hit enter. So we really have to have a good understanding of this has got to go through the vertex. And so remember, a yellow box will appear. So you can't really see it down here, but that yellow box right there is what's telling me that it's down there where it's supposed to be, okay? So it's tough to see this. If I was going to draw a line, I would draw a line right here, and you could see that it would cross the x-axis at what looks to be 2. The bigger thing is that it always takes the x-coordinate of the vertex. And so we know this is going to be x equals 2 because it's the x-coordinate of that vertex. So x equals 2. All right, and then this last one is not a calculator, even though you see the y equals. This is one that if you get this, that's great. If you don't, I don't want you to stress out about it. But any time that we see x as the exponent, which we do in our answers, then this is an exponential equation, okay? And with exponential equations, a, which is the very first number, is called the initial value. And so if you're reading this and it says a town's population is currently 850, that is the initial value. So that has to be up front where A is. So you can get rid of F and you can get rid of H. So 850 should be up front. Okay, and then it says it's going to decrease 2%. Well, decrease would be a decay. So decrease would be a decay. So it has to be smaller than 1, and that's the number inside the parentheses. Well, you can see this is bigger than 1. That would be a growth. If it's smaller than 1, that would be a decay or a decrease in this case. And so the answer would be J. They're not tough if you understand this, but the problem is if you don't understand it, then it's obviously a lot tougher. So with that being said, guys, definitely all the other stuff that we had done, that's the most important stuff. So make sure you know those keywords, and if you do, you can get a ton of easy questions on the STAAR test. I really hope this helps.